Crazy times. All right. Let's get this. All right. 1 second, folks. You know how we do. First things first, let me get all the mic check. Facebook, we're good. Just to share everything out real quick. So for those of you who do not know, I do go live Monday through Friday, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. As you can see what we're talking about today, some crazy times. I mean, I look at that thumbnail, it's like there's some crazy times. I'll tell you. It was quite the time. But before I get too into it, let me just make sure I'm good on all the platforms, and then we'll go from there. Okay. All right, here we go. We're ready. Hold up. Let me just make sure. All good. And all right, here we are. We're back. All right, good to see everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day you may be tuned into this. Happy for you, happy you're here, happy you're tuned in, happy you're listening. So first and foremost, before we dive deeper, first and foremost, happy Wintrepreneur Wednesday. Wintrepreneur Wednesday. You heard me correctly. It is the term that I have coined. It's all about taking it's basically the definition of the term wintrepreneur. Again, the term that I coined. It is basically a person who has an entrepreneurial mindset and has been fortunate enough and blessed enough to have a job that is aligning with their entrepreneurial vision. All right. And the book number 6 will be coming out. This is why I call myself not just a 5-time published author. I call myself a 6-time published author. Actually, you know what? Before I'm getting too ahead of myself right now, let me make sure I'm introducing myself to anybody new that's coming into my world now, because again, this is a lot of the stuff we talked about this week is going to be evergreen stuff, because we're talking about proactively solving problems. So first and foremost, my name, all right, Aswan Crookshank. I am your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time, soon to be 6-time published author and educator. What I do, what the Move Swiftly brand is all about, is taking the innovative teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field and aligning them with businesses and business owners, so they have a group of employees, they have a staff that moves as efficiently and as cohesively and has that passion, the same type of passion that a championship youth or high school football team has. That's what I created. That's what I implemented. That's what my systems are all about. Every move I've made, every single thing I've done professionally has been to recreate that culture. All right. And today happens to be a Wintrepreneur Wednesday, because term wintrepreneur is all about, like I had mentioned before I gave you that intro, it's all about an entrepreneurial minded person that has been blessed enough to have a job, blessed enough to find a job, find a situation in which that job that's paying them every 2 weeks is in alignment. It's in alignment with what it is they want to be as an entrepreneur. It's very challenging, and you have to be very fortunate and very focused to be blessed with that opportunity. But there are a lot of wintrepreneurs out there. A lot of people the actual term is intrapreneur, but because I'm the sports guy, I'm the guy that, is kind of, always has to put my own marketing spin on things. I just added the W to it, and I've coined it wintrepreneur, and that's what book number 6 is going to be about. But in seriousness now, it's important that we recognize those folks, because a lot of people who have this idea of being an entrepreneur, they don't understand that it still takes working with people. It still takes a great deal of, hey, I got to align myself with this. We got to get a contract doing this. We got to do this, got to do that. There's a lot of things that go on. If you're going to make it as a successful entrepreneur, you still have to work with a great deal of people, and you still have to be humble enough to learn and then to learn about how other people are doing things and what you could be learning from somebody else. That has to be the mentality. All right. So that's why I have dubbed Wednesdays as Wintrapreneur Wednesdays. It's actually one of the topics of my keynotes and one of the workshops, some of the workshops that I host. It's all about teaching the employee how the concept and the idea of being a wintrapreneur. And that's what it's all about. So I have a lot. I personally, sometimes on this day, I would, feature other folks, feature other wintrapreneurs and talk to you a little bit about their story and how it inspired me. And many times I just speak on myself because I'm the ultimate wintrapreneur is the one you're looking at right now. And I have a story today. We're going to talk about a story today because this week's theme has been all about proactively solving problems. And I don't know if I've had a better lesson. I don't know if I had a better lesson in terms of how to proactively solve a problem other than dealing with multiple chaotic classrooms. Picture me being alone with a group of 3-year-olds, close to the 15. I think the ratio is 15 3-year-olds. I was one Crookshank who has no kids of my own. I had to be alone with a group of 3-year-olds, 15 3-year-olds running around. Feeding them, and one's crying. It was an absolute, I did not know what I didn't know. This is what today we're going to talk about. I just simply did not know what I didn't know. And boy, I had to grow up quick. So we're going to get it. We're going to dive into all of that stuff today. So before we do, let me get through a couple of announcements real quick, and then we'll go from there. First and foremost, if you are in the West Palm Beach area and you are interested in free boxing lessons, be sure to if you're watching me live on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, be sure to hit the QR code that you see right there on the screen, and I will get you more information. If you are listening to this on the Move Swiftly podcast, the website to go to is freeboxing.makeyourmove.com. That's freeboxing.makeyourmove.com. That's MAKEYAMOVE.com. Just put your information in there, and there will be a link and some information sent to you as well. Next thing, business owners, as I mentioned, what I do, the whole Move Swiftly framework, all the work I do is so you guys can learn from it, develop some systems that will make it so your turnover rates are being reduced. You are reducing turnover. That's what it is when you decide to buy into the system. All right. Go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. That is freeguide.makeyourmove.com. Created a 10-step process that you could use right now to make it so your staff and your organization, the people that are working for you, are moving with some intention. That's what it's all about. Intention, moving with intention. Also, be sure to tap in to the Patreon link. In fact, right now, I'm still working out a few kinks when it comes to the Patreon link in terms of how I'm going to be organizing it. But pretty much the main thing is making it so you as business owners understand that getting one workshop getting one workshop is great. And, again, utilize it, test it out, and see if it's something you want to move forward with. But for the most part, my employee development workshops are set up in a way in which we want to track progress. We want to track, how are your turnover rates now? And then over the span of a couple years, not a couple years, but a couple months, how is it being resolved? We want data. We want the data to prove if I'm worth it or if I'm worthy or not. That's what I'm all about, is proving it, actual proof. That's what being a wintrapreneur is all about. That's what being an entrepreneur is about. Proving it based on the data, based on the results. We are in a results-based business. That's what the sports world is all about. In fact, just this morning, I was listening to my guy, man, Dre. And I knew Dre. I knew Dre. Shout out to Dre Baldwin. I knew he was going to come with some strong facts in regards to the Shedeur Sanders situation. And, he brought up the fact that, hey, look, if Shedeur Sanders, if all the people that want to complain and call the NFL racist or whatever, if he can play, then his ass will be in the league. If he can't, he won't. Period, point blank, end of sentence. And that's why, this is where the sports culture, when you get that sports energy, the sports culture, and you merge it in the work and the business and professional life, you get some incredible things, because it boils down to performance. Can your ass play or can you not? That's what we do around here. All right. So all that being said, again, all of this is available on makeyourmove.com. That's makeyamoove.com. If you are looking at this, if you're looking at this online, you see you can shop, you can join the Patreon, you could book me to speak, or you could just learn more about your one and only as one Crookshank here. You could just learn more, or you could listen to another one of those fantastic podcast episodes on the Move Swiftly podcast right there on that one website. All right. So let's get in. Let me provide, as usual, I will have an article. The article is already up. Wintrepreneur Wednesday, how I first learned to proactively solve problems. In fact, you know what? Let me just get it up on the screen now while I kind of talk you through this. How I first learned to proactively solve problems. And by the way, like, comment, share, subscribe, wherever you're listening to this. Again, I'm coming at it every single day. This train is not slowing down one bit. In fact, it's just going to speed up and speed up and speed up and speed up. The more books that come out, the more information I get, the more I develop and work my system and allow myself to say, hey, this system's in place. Information comes, I'm going to put it in the system, and it's just going to grind. 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 They done gave a cat like me ChatGPT. They done gave me ChatGPT where I could take my creative juices, take my flow, take all the wild things I got, and I could, ask ChatGPT to organize certain thoughts and organize certain things for me so I can just come and do my thing. Oh, it's over now. It's over. See, before I felt a little overwhelmed because I don't have that assistant, I don't have that person being able to filter out certain things for me. But now they done gave me some ChatGPT, dog. Oh, snap. It's going down. It's going down. Re-energize, all right? Because you can do your work and you don't got excuses because it'll be hard to be too overwhelmed when you have a system in place or a mindset in place that you're gonna make your shit a success. You're gonna make it a success regardless. All right. So as far as today on Wintrepreneur Wednesday, because we are talking all week, we're talking about proactively solving problems. I have got to go back to between 2020 and 2023-ish, 2020 and 2023-ish, 23-ish. That was around the time that I transitioned from a fitness position, kind of a lifestyle or going down the trajectory of a fitness / athletics lifestyle to more taking my abilities in the fitness, taking my accomplishments and the things I learned from a fitness and athletic standpoint and applying it to become an educator. All right. And this all kind of happened as I had to react and I had to deal with what we all had to deal with, which was the coronavirus. Right. So to give you some backstory before we get into the article today, it was around 2019, actually, where I put out my first book. And my first book it's titled, obviously, Swiftly, Your Guide to Innovative Teamwork. And it was written from the perspective of a guy person like me who was working as a trainer, but also working as a trainer. I was the head trainer at this gym named 9 Round, but I was also working for the Miami Dolphins Foundation. And I saw both those worlds. I saw, professional sports team and the fitness world and a fitness world. And me having a background as a scout, like an athletic college scout, I was able to create a business, create some synergy, create something in which I was going to utilize to try to boost my book sales while, building out sales, whether it be for membership for a gym or through the fan engagement that I was dealing with the Dolphins. It was all kind of just coming together at that time. And then the coronavirus shut us down, couldn't really do the vendorship, couldn't really do the speaking, couldn't really do a lot of the things that I had planned on doing because a lot of that stuff is going to be based on events and meeting people, shaking hands and, hosting, setting up tables, all that kind of stuff. Right. So at this 9 Round that I was at, it was owned by, it's no longer in business, but it was owned by the person who owned it. He pretty much gave me the rope. He gave me like everything again. It gave me the ability to do pretty much what I wanted. So I had to be, when I say what I wanted, meaning he trusted me with me being in the gym by myself without him having to be there, right? So I remember actually I was there for 4 years, and I remember the first week he came to me and he goes, I want you to act like I'm not even here. I want you to act like you don't even have the ability to come and ask for my help if something goes wrong. So if the gym is being run, let's say there's 6 or 7 people there doing a workout and I got to motivate them and show them the workout. If the phone rings, okay, as one, you got to figure it out. You got to put the workout there and then go answer the phone. If somebody comes in and they want to sign up, all right, you got to set up the computer screen where they can sign the waiver, and then they sign the waiver while you put this one in through a workout, and then the phone might ring, and then you got to, keep these guys motivated. You got to make sure the bell is ringing at the right time. So there was a lot of little things to manage as I had to kind of learn under fire, right? And one of the things I would do, again, show a workout before they actually got to the round, or, if there was a phone call, I say, hey, can you take down the number or whatever it was, or there's a person to sign up, hey, just give me 1 sec. A lot of things that I had to manage a lot around. So I'm thinking in my head, hey, proactive problem solving, nothing. Like I know everything, right? I'm thinking because I'm getting better, right? I'm getting better. I'm doing this. And I'm also, busting out my sales with the Dolphins Foundation. I'm like, I'm ticking, and this is South Florida. I'm like, okay. I'm finding my groove. It's like one of my favorite movies, How Stella Got Her Groove Back, with Angela Bassett. She's in Jamaica. She's an older lady in her 40s, and she's like, yeah, I'm getting my groove back. I'm just doing me. I'm doing me. But then again, COVID happened. The coronavirus shut us down, and we all had to pivot. We all had to figure something out. And when the coronavirus shut us down, that's when I realized how important leadership is, because when it shut us down, the leadership that would frustrate me even before COVID with this gym owner, that started to be something that just couldn't be ignored, right? It just couldn't be ignored, because there were things that were happening in gym, like people were canceling. Obviously, folks weren't really comfortable being in the gym, in that environment where they're around other folks. They don't want to catch it, yada, 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 all that stuff. And for me personally, I needed to get my book sales going. I need to, do something to really boost my book and do something that was going to attract more readers. So I started looking for places that were, well, first of all, at the time, one of my the goal, if you would have asked me during that time, my goal was to open up my own youth center. So I'm looking for places that have that same mentality, that I could be around kids. And I had opened up the business in terms of doing boxing lessons for kids and stuff like that. If you followed me around that time, you saw that I was doing a lot of boxing lessons for kids. Some of the mothers of the gym were bringing their kids to a park, and I was, teaching them some of the jabs across. So, I was in that place where I was wanting to work directly with kids and be around kids. I wanted to transition that, given the skill set that I had. Every single parent would love to put their son or daughter in boxing lessons. So it's just a matter of me getting in front of more people and figuring out what worked for them, all that kind of stuff, right? So this is what I figured, and I'm going to read through the article in a second here. Well, I figured, hey, being at a KinderCare, being at a learning, it didn't matter what the learning center was, as long as I was going to be around kids. That's obviously going to be a great opportunity for me to, boost my book sales, get a relationship with the parents and all that kind of stuff. And I figured that that's what was going to happen. But I was sadly mistaken. I was mistaken, because the relationship that the parents have with these so-called, I don't know, I guess you can call them counselors, teachers, educators, these learning centers, the people that work at these learning centers, and the relationship that they have with these parents is not a very nice, it's not a very cordial relationship. It's not. That's what I had to learn, especially being the only guy. I had to break up fights between the director and the and some of the parents, and they're going and shouting matches and stuff. It was not at all. And then they're hiring some of the parents because, obviously it's convenient for them if they could watch their kid and get paid at the same time. So they're hiring some parents. So they're obviously not hiring other parents who might need a job. And then that turns into some drama. It was fucking Jerry Springer every day, something new every day. And I had to learn myself again how to, prevent certain problems from happening in order for things to move smoothly. And that's really where I learned. Like that, I was only on my second book. Now I was in the process of finishing my second book when I first started there. Now we're, working on book number 6, because just that in itself, that like that experience in itself was crazy. It was crazy. So let's get to this article before I start talking too much. I usually try to keep these. I'm working towards keeping these at the 45-minute mark, and the article, having an article to read from helps me in that regard. So for my podcast listeners, I am reading directly from the article that is available on medium.com. Medium.com, and you can follow me at MoveSwiftly44. I am considering this. I'm going to put this out there now. The book order. So the book is about, now I'm about 40%. Yeah, I'm actually right at 40% through the book. All right, because I'm working on chapter 4 now. I plan on having it to be 10 chapters, and I'll probably put in some of the articles in the book. But what I'm thinking about doing is, for my Medium subscribers, the people that subscribe to be on Medium will get a discount. I'll probably might give away a free book for the people that are really engaging with me on medium.com. I will consider doing that as we get closer to the fall. Right now, the plan is for the pre-orders to be ready by football season. So, obviously football season is one of those times a year, and those situations where I really get to align what's going on in current events world with the work I do. And that's, that's what I'm considering, what I'm attempting to do. I like to give myself deadlines and things like that. So anyway, let me know what you guys think about that. And I will, the moment I'm reading the article directly from Medium. So for you podcast listeners, that's why I'm repeating that. All right. So Wintrepreneur Wednesday, how I first learned to proactively solve problems, by Aswan Cruikshank. Okay. Featuring Aswan Cruikshank. Welcome back to another Wintrepreneur Wednesday, one of the many creative initiatives I've proudly built from the ground up. Before we dive into today's story, let's quickly define the term. Wintrepreneur, a person who has an entrepreneurial vision for their life and business, yet had the good fortune of finding a job that aligns with that same vision. This week, we've been focused on one core theme: proactive problem solving. And today I'm putting myself on the hot seat. Yes, I'm the featured Wintrepreneur this week, and I'm taking y'all back to the unexpected classroom that first taught me how to truly anticipate solving problems before they blow up. My time at KinderCare Learning Center. All right, here we go. So I sort of already said this, but I'll read it directly in case you're coming in late, or you want to clip this out and explain to people and pass it along to anybody that you think really needs to hear this. All right, so here it is. From boxing gloves to baby wipes. Let's rewind. About a year after the world flipped upside down during what some called the pandemic, others called the scamdemic, I was growing increasingly frustrated with my job at a 9-round fitness gym. I was the head trainer, but it felt like I was running the whole operation. I was the show, the motivational trainer, the sign-up guy, the phone-up guy, the janitor, the energy source. Meanwhile, the owner was way too relaxed for my liking, especially as we were hemorrhaging members. I needed leadership. I needed urgency. And since I wasn't seeing either, I bounced. The first offer I got was from KinderCare Learning Center, an hour away. And this was when I left Plantation to come out here to West Palm Beach. I didn't hesitate. I took it. Now, real quick, and this is for all of my business owners, all of you tuning into this, all right? This is real. I know I might be a little hard on the 9-round owner at times. It's only because it's something I actually experienced. But you can replace him with a lot of you folks that are listening to me now. When you're the owner of a business, when you're the leader of a business, when you're the leader of a household, when you're the coach, when you're the teacher, when you're whoever you claim to be as a leader, you need to have the right energy. All right. If there's clearly a problem. Okay. And in this case, it was a situation where the coronavirus is here. We were at 100 some odd members. And by the time you looked at it, we are down to like 70, 60, 50, 40. And like the owner is not doing enough, in my opinion. He's too relaxed. He's spending time instead power washing the damn floors or doing stuff that has nothing to do with getting people walking through the damn door. All right. That is worse. And that is the part where you as a leader, you got to start to say to yourself, hey, a lot of folks are depending on me to make quality decisions. A lot of folks are depending on their lifestyle, their livelihood, and how they eat in their future and what they want to become and how they want to use this money to start up this and put this there and do this. All of that is depending on how well I make decisions. That boils down to integrity. How much integrity do you have to say, hey, I got to do something. I can't just sit on my ass and act like things aren't happening the way they're happening and then expect, for people to just stay around. That doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that. There's too many opportunities, too many things that folks can take advantage of for them to say, you know what? I'm out. I'm bouncing. That's the reality. And it happens in every organization. This is why I call this entire week, this is evergreen material. Evergreen, meaning it doesn't matter whether you read it or you listen to this now in 2025 or you pick the shit up in 2065. It's going to be the same thing. When you're a leader, when you're the one grinding, when you're the one that's actually responsible for folks being hired and fired, you gotta bring it. You gotta show up and you gotta bring it. In fact, I'll tell you this quick story, and I have a lot of them. Trust me. All right, this is why I give myself a certain time to really go in. But when I first got hired at 9 Round, he had looked at my resume, and the one thing that stuck out to him was the fact that I used to be a trainer for a company named D1. D1 is a sports and training therapy kind of a gym where you have a lot of these celebrity athletes. They put their face on a gym and they endorse it. It has like field turf and, it's basically the home for that. In fact, let me just pull it up real quick to give you guys a visual. If you're looking at this on, D1 trainer, I think there's a few out here in Florida. If you're looking at this, if you listen to this on the Move Swiftly podcast, I'm just pulling up a link to D1 training. Yeah, D1 training, athletic training facility. So I used to be a trainer at one of these D1s. And when the 9 Round owner looked at my resume, that was the one thing that he pointed out. He circled it, highlighted. He's like, yeah, that right there is something that intrigues me about you. And when I was there, I remember the person who the company D1, it's a fucking shit show. All right. It's absolutely insane. I don't even have time to get started on going in on the way the company works, but I had to do what I had to do. I had to, show up and, run the boot camps and all that kind of stuff. Right. So what happened was I remember when I first started there was a situation where the members didn't like some workout that I put them through, or I didn't go because it was kind of confusing because, I would get the workouts online and then I would have to try to transfer what was online and then put them through the same thing and then be looking at it. And it doesn't work like that. When you're a boot camp trainer, you got to be on it. You got to be knowing your shit. You got to be, hey, you do wall sits and then you do squat jumps and then you do some bridge walks over there and then y'all switch up every 30 seconds and stuff. You got to be on it. You got to be really knowing your stuff, right? So apparently what happened was when I first started doing it, because I really wasn't down like that. I didn't really know how to get my flow together, right? So the members who showed up had complained. They complained about me not, whatever the boot camp wasn't making sense, blah, 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 blah. And then the facility director called me and he goes, yo, man, you just got to bring it every day. Don't worry about that shit. Don't worry about the shit. You know what you're doing. You just bring it every day. Just bring it every day. Every day. Just bring it. Just bring it. And it's the same approach I take right now in the situation I'm in. Just bring it every day. They're going to remember the ones that bring it. Bring it. Bring it every day. It's the same approach I take when I do these live streams. If you can go look at the damn receipts, brings it every single day. Now, granted, there's a cup of coffee and some Celsius energy drinks that help, but for the most part, we're bringing it every day. All right. So back to the article. So let me just go back so we're reminded here. So meanwhile, the owner was way too relaxed for my liking, especially as we were hemorrhaging members. I needed leadership. I needed urgency. And since I wasn't seeing either, I bounced. The first offer I got from KinderCare Learning Center, an hour away, I didn't hesitate. I just took it. And that's really what happened. I literally just took it. It was not a job interview at all. It literally walked into the place. How desperate they were. I walked into the place, and the director at the time tells me, we're not even interviewing. We just need bodies. We need, obviously that should have been a red flag, but considering what I had to live through before, I was just like, I bet there's around kids. I got my own books. I'm going to go create something. I don't care. I'll just take it. I'll just take it. So she hires me on the spot. And actually, I remember too, while I had, gotten to know them and, was talking to her actually when I was working there, she goes, is that why you took the job so quick? I was like, yeah, man, I was dealing with a situation with my other employer that I had to roll out, because there was just no situation in which I could be around someone who's losing money and just deciding, hey, fuck it, they just gonna walk in. But anyway, I'm back to the article. So KinderCare, in case you're unfamiliar, actually, let me give you a little more information on what KinderCare is all about. First of all, KinderCare, in case you're unfamiliar, is basically a daycare dressed up as a learning center, right? That's how they got me, because in my mind, I'm thinking I'm walking into a learning center. You don't realize it's an actual daycare until you actually walk in and see this is a daycare. It's not a learning center. There's no learning at all. So anyway, all right, KinderCare, in case you're unfamiliar, is basically a daycare dressed up as a learning center. Smart branding move, by the way. I put that in the article, by the way. So at the time, I thought this would be a good stepping stone into education. What I didn't expect, daily shouting matches with kids, no exaggeration. I was constantly being told by coworkers to tone it down because I was making the kids cry. Not once, but twice I was asked to leave the center for a day while they conducted investigations into complaints about me yelling. So yeah, it wasn't the motivation. It wasn't the motivational gym crowd I was used to. Yes. So this actually is a true story. And it's how I actually ended up here at CCE, is that the first time it happened, it was, again, let me put the thumbnail up there for you guys so you guys understand try to put yourself in the mindset of a group of kids. All right. So the parents dropped them off to this daycare, right? And again, I'm thinking it's a learning center. They dropped them off to this daycare, and they're expecting like a nurturing environment where, there's mostly ladies working there, and they have kids of their own, and they got their own situations, and they can relate to kids and just kind of, just get them through the day and get them back to their parents. They're not really expecting this guy that's, has books out, former gym trainer, boxing trainer at that, has coached high school football, is used to talking to kids in a way that it just seems normal. So even as I'm talking now, like as the depth and the kind of how my voice can be a little deeper, that in itself is intimidating some 3-year-old kid or some 4-year. Like I remember one time, I didn't even feel like I was yelling. I was talking the way I'm talking now, not necessarily yelling. And the director says, "Hey, Mr. A, you don't get to yell at them. You don't get to." I'm like, yo, I'm not even yelling at this point. So anyway, the first time I got put on administrative leave was because apparently the kids are going to their parents and they're saying, there's this new Mr. A guy and he's just yelling all the time. Those complaints got to be too loud, and I had to, step out for a day while they conducted the investigation. And it was like, okay, his style is more like a coach. He's not necessarily the female that you're used to sending him or sending your child to. So it's going to take a little bit of an adjustment there. And this is why, like, to this day, I look at this thumbnail now. This was like towards my end of my KinderCare. There was a lot more, but it's like a factory. There's so much turnover in that daycare world, childcare world, that I was learning about. This is why, again, I tell you all the time, when it comes to me and my employee development workshops, I've lived through a lot of transient industries. I've lived through a lot of situations in which I saw a lot of turnover, whether it is fitness, athletics, childcare, education. I see a ton of turnover every day. I was more so, I had to be dependent on these ladies who knew more than I did. See, this is where being humbled comes into play. This is where being willing to learn comes into play, because as I was learning from these ladies who had a certain background, a certain worldview, I started to say, you know what? As one, I need to be more responsible. I need to get better. I need to learn. Tell me how to approach the situation. Teach me what I need to do. And then we can rock this thing out together. And that's why I was able to, get better as time wore on. It's the same thing that happened when I was at 9 round. Again, when I was at 9 round, there was another trainer who, to this day, me and him, we had I wouldn't say I don't like him particularly, but long story short, we had a falling out, right? And I kind of saw it happening over time, but I learned so much from him, and he didn't take advantage of the opportunity to learn from me. So he was the guy that came in and he knew how to do mix, that jab, cross, uppercut, hook, jab, cross, uppercut, hook, jab, cross. He knew how to do that because he was an amateur fighter. I just happened to be the guy that was very motivational. But again, because the members were coming in and they were like, yeah, I want to train with Pablo. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do that. I took it personally and I said, you know what, yo, Pablo, teach me how to do some of that. Teach me how to, teach someone else how to throw an uppercut, a jab, across a hook. And then I was able to apply that to teaching the kids and apply that to the things that I was already great at. And obviously, because I did that, of course, he can't stand me now. Because I actually use my fucking time in a productive way and shit like that, which is what happens when you're actually committed to self-development, committed to working on your craft. No matter what situation you're in, you're going to get people who hate you eventually. You're going to get people who are intimidated by you. You're going to get people who just can't stand you because you're doing it and they're not. Period, point blank, end of story. Give yourself a pat on the back at the fact that you have so many people that want to take shots at you. So as I close you guys, I'm gonna close you guys out soon. As I close you guys out, here's a story that I've been I've been attempting to get to, but there's a lot of things obviously as I led up to this story that is kind of the main breakdown of the article. Because what happened was they started me out with the 3-year-olds. They started me out with the 3-year-olds when I was at KinderCare, and I was 15 mother MFing 3-year-olds with me. That has 0 children of his own. I have a niece and nephew, and I had to draw on that, those experiences just to get through a couple hours with them. All right. I mean, I had to serve them food. I had to it was crazy. But again, as I was learning from these ladies, as I was kind of picking their brain, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to have fun. And not for the most part, not too many crazy things happen, when I was by myself. I was really proud of myself as I was, getting better and learning how to, serve these little kids. Right. So anyway, once I was there for a couple of weeks or a month or so, they moved me to the school age room. I think, what happened was when they heard my yelling, heard my intensity, they moved me to the school age room. And this was, again, around the time COVID was happening. There was still virtual school going on. So, you had the school age and the VPK kids because it was the summer coming up. You had them kind of merged and mixed around. And that's what caused a lot of problems because they're dealing with a lot of transition from VPK. Now they're starting school. Now, they're around other kids. And the way it affects them emotionally, it really kind of fucks with them a little bit. So let me just get to the story and then we'll break it down once I'm through reading it. So the VPK breakdown that changed everything. All right. Let me tell you I'm reading directly from the article, podcast listeners. Let me tell you about the moment everything clicked. It was summer, which meant the VPK, voluntary pre-K, and school age kids were all grouped together. One boy in particular stood out for all the wrong reasons. And before I even get there, this boy, again, reminded me a lot of myself. And every time I see a combination where there's an older sister and a younger brother, it's always a trigger for me because that's how I grew up. I grew up incredibly close with my older sister, and I was the younger brother. My older sister now has a daughter and a son, which is my niece and nephew. Same kind of dynamic, right? The girl I'm seeing now, she has the same dynamic. So it's always a trigger in terms of, when you see an older sister and a younger brother and the way they collaborate, the way they fight, the way they go at it, the way they just, like, it's a day in and day out, boxing match with those two. It's always a trigger, and that's why this story and seeing this situation always hits a trigger with me. So, all right, so let me tell you about the moment everything clicked. It was summer, which meant the VPK, voluntary pre-K, and school-age kids were all grouped together. One boy in particular stood out for all the wrong reasons. He cried constantly, every 5 minutes. He cried if he lost a game. He cried if he didn't get picked. He cried if the wind blew the wrong way. Now, one of the few things the kids did enjoy about me were the competitive games I'd come up with. Fun, high energy, structured challenges. But with this boy, every game triggered another crying episode. So let me just explain that to you. When I would come up, let me just give you an example. So I'd come up with a game. Let's say we were outside for recess. I have two kids go together. One of them would run all the way down to the gate. They'd have to grab a bike and ride their bike. They have to jump on the bike, ride around, and see who makes it back first, make a ball in the basket, and then, whoever makes the ball first in the basket after they've done the course or whatever, that would be the winner or whatever. It would just be a fun game that keeps everything engaged. So this particular boy, every single time, even though the kids are having fun and they're doing whatever it is they're doing, every single time he would lose, constantly crying to the point where I'm like, oh my God, I can't do anything with you. You're driving me nuts. Okay. So what happened was it's not that they didn't like the cool and the fun, interactive, innovative games I was coming with, but this is what the director at the time told me. Eventually, and I'm reading directly from the article now, guys. All right. So eventually the director pulled me aside after yet another complaint call from his mom. All right. So what happened was the mother called because the daughter was old enough to have a cell phone, and the daughter would call the mom like on the spot. Every single time I'd make him cry. She'd call the mom on the spot. Mr. A's out again. Yep. Mr. Yep. It's him. Yep. And again, she's not supposed to do that. This is highly illegal stuff that they're doing. But obviously, me being the only guy, it gets kind of brushed over. But anyway, she'd call the mom, they'd complain, and then the mom will call the center and then complain with me. And then, it turns into a whole thing. So the director pulled me aside after another one of those complaints. And she says, the games you create are great. But if you know that this one, and when she's talking about this one, she's talking about this particular boy, she goes, when you know he's going to break down when he loses, either don't let him play or tweak the game so it's not a competition. Boom! Right there. That was the moment. Proactive problem solving. Not reacting after the meltdown, but anticipating the meltdown and adjusting before it actually starts. That single piece of advice completely reshaped how I think about leadership, behavior, content creation, and now employee development. From tears to system. Today, as I write this article, understand, hear me clearly, folks. I wrote this article on Friday when I had the opportunity where there were not kids here. So I didn't have to deal with the kids. It was more so of a professional development day here. So I used that opportunity to professionally develop. So wrote the article Friday. The post won't go live until Wednesday, but it's already done. If you read, I put the post out there right before I started this live stream. Why? Because I become the kind of person that plans ahead. Not because I'm trying to be perfect, but because I want my weekends to be clear. I want to enjoy time with my girl without constantly stressing over deadlines. I've learned to build in margin, to anticipate roadblocks, to create solutions before the fire starts. All right. Final word, the ultimate entrepreneur. Regardless of who I feature in the future, let's be clear. I'm the original entrepreneur. That time at KinderCare, it taught me more about proactive problem solving than any business book ever could. And yes, the book How to Be a Entrepreneur is coming soon. Pre-orders will be open before football season hits. Till then, think about this. Where are you reacting when you should be anticipating? What old frustrations could have been solved by having a plan in place? How can you take your current role, no matter how frustrating, and leverage it for lifelong lessons? That's what it has to be. That's what it is you have to do. You have to take whatever it is you've lived through, whatever you've seen, whatever, all the stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that you've had to live through. Okay, you're a human being. Shit happens. Shit simply happens. But how do you take it, learn from it, grow from it, and say, okay, that's what I learned then. I put it down somewhere so I can be reminded of it, and I'm going to become a proactive problem solver and make myself so much more valuable to any environment. Now, the people, again, you're going to run into folks who don't appreciate that shit. That's perfect. That's exactly the way it should be, because it gives you a clear indication in terms of who the hell you need to have in your life, who you need to have in your circle, and who you need to get the fuck out and move on from. That's what it teaches you. Okay. So, all right. I'm cutting myself off. All right. I'm going for 45 minutes. And again, the goal here is to keep it at 45 minutes. I can go for another hour, but again, I'm being considerate. I'm making sure I'm practicing what I preach in regards to making sure my deadlines, making sure I'm hitting my targets and things of that nature. All right. So all that being said, main website, again, to check out, to go to dive deeper into all the work I'm doing. If you're interested in having me come and speak to your staff and really build up this culture, all of that is available here. MakeYaMove.com. That's MakeYaMove.com. One-stop shop for all your teamwork and your self-development needs. As one Crookshank, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, checking out. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.